I remember that night clearly. It was a few months ago, and I was driving through the Appalachian Mountains. I was 34, a long-haul truck driver. This was my escape. The winding roads and solitude felt familiar, like an old friend. The night was dark. My headlights cut through the shadows. The tall trees stood like silent giants on either side of the road. I drove past those flickering cabins, memories flashing in my mind. They reminded me of better times. I had a routine, and this felt like just another drive. But as I continued, an uneasy feeling crept in. I didn't know why, but it made my skin crawl. Then the radio crackled. I adjusted the dial and landed on an old-timey station. The voice that came through felt so familiar. It made my stomach twist. Maybe it was a glitch, I thought. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I focused on the road, but that voice hooked me. As I turned a tight corner, the signal got stronger. The words mixed together, blending memories from my past with strange warnings. My heart raced. I started looking around the woods, half expecting something to jump out at me. I tried to ignore it, but I felt like I had to listen. After a few minutes, I had to pull over. I needed a break. I stepped out of the truck, and the quiet was overwhelming. I looked around. Everything was still. Then I heard it, a rustling in the bushes. I glanced in the direction of the sound and saw her. A woman stood at the edge of the road. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. I think she smiled. "Jack," she said. My heart stopped. How did she know my name? I froze. Before I could say anything, she faded away. One moment she was there. The next, she was gone. Confused and frightened, I stared into the darkness. I was sure I was seeing things. How long I stood there, I don't know. The quiet felt heavy, like it was closing in on me. I finally got back in the truck, but the feeling of being watched lingered. As I drove away, the radio crackled back to life. That familiar voice spoke my name again, just a whisper this time. I felt a chill wash over me. Why was this happening? I couldn't understand it. The mountains felt different now. Every shadow seemed to move. I focused on the road, but that voice echoed in my head. It felt like a warning, or maybe a call. The questions flooded my mind. Who was that woman? Why did she say my name? I still think about that night. I can't shake it. The Appalachian Mountains hold secrets, and now I feel like I'm haunted by them. I wish I could forget, but I can't. The next few nights were restless. I couldn't shake the image of that woman from my mind. Her voice echoed in my head along with the strange radio transmissions. I tried to forget, but curiosity gnawed at me. I thought about the town nearby, a small place called Maple Grove where I could ask around. Maybe someone there would know something. So I planned my route to take me that way. The early evening air was still warm as I pulled into Maple Grove. The streets were quiet, too quiet for my comfort, and the fading light cast long shadows. I parked the truck near a diner and stepped inside, hoping it would feel like a normal night. The diner was filled with all kinds of pictures and memorabilia. A few locals sat at the counter sipping coffee and chatting softly. I approached the counter and took a seat. The waitress, a kind older woman, noticed my hesitation. "I don't think I've seen you around here before," she said, flashing a warm smile. "No, I'm just passing through. I had an odd experience in the mountains the other night," I said. "I saw a woman, and I think she knew my name." Her smile faded slightly. She leaned in. "You weren't alone out there, were you? Lots of stories about those woods. Strange things happen." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What kind of stories?" She looked around as if making sure no one was listening. "Some folks say they see people from their past, or hear voices. Depending on what they've done, it can be a warning." "What do you mean, warning?" I was on edge. "Well, there's a legend about a place not far from here. They say that if you see someone you know, it's a sign you've made a mistake, or that someone's trying to reach you." The weight of her words sank in. Was I being warned about something? I couldn't shake the connection to the woman. "What do I do if I see them?" She sighed, looking at her hands. "You listen. Don't ignore it. If they're in trouble, you have to help them." I was confused but compelled. The question still hung in the air. Who was that woman? I needed answers. But then, just as I was about to ask more, the diner lights flickered. Everyone paused, looking around. "Just the old generator," the waitress said, but I wasn't so sure. The hum of the diner felt heavy, and I noticed something outside. A shadow moved past the window. It was fleeting, but it caught my eye. I stood up to look. When I stepped outside, my heart raced. The parking lot was empty. I scanned the area, and then I heard it. A voice calling my name, low and distant. "Jack." That same familiar voice from the radio. Panic surged through me. I turned back to the diner, but the door felt too far as I heard that whisper again, clearer this time. "Help me." I took a deep breath. Whoever or whatever was trying to reach me was close. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. Determined, I stepped toward the sound, ready to face whatever it was that awaited me. I moved toward the voice, my feet feeling heavy as I crossed the diner's threshold. The dim light struggled to illuminate the parking lot, the shadows inviting me deeper into the unknown. Each step was a battle between instinct and curiosity. "Help me," the voice echoed again, clearer, almost desperate. I paused, sensing a heartbeat of energy in the air. I turned my head, trying to catch a glimpse of anything in the dark. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure move behind a nearby tree line, but it slipped away before I could confirm. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice stronger than I felt. Silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I felt the chill creep in. I didn't want to be the hero or the fool. Still, I stepped closer to the trees, drawn like a moth to a flame. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted, and I stumbled over an uneven patch of gravel. As I regained my balance, I caught a glimpse of something glinting on the ground. I knelt down, heart racing, and picked up a small locket. It was cold and heavy in my hand, intricately designed but tarnished with age. I opened it, revealing a picture tucked inside. My breath caught in my throat. It was a photo of the woman, the same dark hair, the same haunting eyes. A shiver ran through me. Was this her locket? Was she signaling me? "Find me," the voice said again, and this time it felt like it was coming from all around me. Glanced back at the diner, contemplating running back inside, but the pull of the voice was stronger than my fear. I straightened and glanced deeper into the woods, realizing I had to know more. Suddenly, a rustling caught my attention. I turned just in time to see a figure step out from the shadows. A man, older but with strikingly similar features to the woman in the photo. My pulse quickened. Was he connected to her? "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice quaking. The man didn't respond right away. His eyes searched mine, filled with an intense urgency. "You shouldn't be here," he said finally, his voice low and raspy, as if warning me of an unseen danger. "I heard her," I replied, still holding the locket. "I need to know what's happening. Who is she?" He took a step closer. "You need to leave. The woods don't give up their secrets easily, and she's not just a memory." "What does that mean?" Fear clawed at my throat. I wanted to understand, but the weight of his words churned in my gut. Then, without warning, the ground beneath us rumbled, like an engine starting up. The shadows thickened, and the air vibrated with an unnatural energy. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I was frozen in place, caught between the man and the darkening woods. "That's not her," he said sharply, pointing toward the trees. "She's not who you think she is." Before I could respond, the locket slipped from my fingers and fell to the ground, the clank echoing in the sudden stillness. I stared at it, terrified, and a moment later, everything went dark. I felt a rush of wind swirl around me, almost suffocating. I tried to yell, to call out for help, but silence enveloped me. Then, just as suddenly, the wind disappeared, leaving only the sound of my own breathing. When the darkness lifted, the man had vanished. Alone in the oppressive quiet, I felt the weight of his warning. What had just happened? And who was truly lost in those woods? The questions loomed heavy, but one thing was clear. I couldn't turn back now. I stood there for what felt like hours, the locket's weight still heavy in my palm. My heart thudded in my chest, a strange rhythm punctuated by the haunting echoes of the voice. I steadied myself, focusing on the sounds around me. The woods were alive, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend. With a deep breath, I made the choice to step further into the trees. There was something that compelled me, a thread connecting me to the woman in the photo, to her lingering plea that resonated in my bones. As I moved deeper into the forest, the darkness settled around me, thick and suffocating. Moonlight pierced through the branches, creating distorted shadows that danced across the ground. I gripped the locket tightly, its cool surface grounding me as unease settled in my stomach. "Help me." The voice was softer now, but still present. It floated on the wind, guiding me. I followed, careful to listen. A few minutes later, I came upon a clearing. In the center stood an old, twisted oak, its branches stretching out like skeletal fingers. At its base lay a pile of stones, worn and weathered, forming a circle. I approached cautiously, my heartbeat quickening. As I knelt to examine the stones, I noticed engravings on them. Symbols, perhaps. They seemed familiar. I reached out, tracing one gently with my fingers. A jolt shot through me. It was like I was tapping into something ancient, something powerful. That's when I saw it. An outline appeared behind the oak tree. Someone stood there, hidden in the shadows. The figure was tall and cloaked, their face obscured. My instinct was to flee, to run back to the safety of the diner. But the voice echoed in my head again. "Find me." The figure stepped forward, and I squinted in the dim light. There it was. The same dark hair, the same ethereal eyes that haunted the photo in the locket. My breath caught in my throat. "Is it you?" I whispered, my words trembling. But instead of an answer, there was movement, a flash of silver. I gasped as I realized the figure held something, a knife gleaming ominously. My heart raced as fear surged through me. What was this? Was I in danger? "Stay away from her," the figure said, voice low and menacing. It wasn't the same voice I had heard before. This sounded sharp and threatening. I backed away slowly, panic making my breath shallow. "I'm not here to hurt her, I just want to understand." But before I could finish, the ground shook again, dust swirling around my feet. The shadows deepened, and the whispers intensified, drowning out my thoughts. I turned to run, but the roots of the twisted oak seemed to reach for me, tangling around my ankles, anchoring me in place. The figure advanced, and everything felt surreal. It was as if the woods themselves were alive, responding to our presence. Then, in an instant, the figure lunged at me, but just before contact, I vanished. When I opened my eyes, I was back at the diner. But something was different. The lights were blinking erratically, and a chill ran down my spine. Something was waiting outside, something that was now aware of me. I needed to know if the woman was real, or if I had crossed a line I could never return from. The diner felt suffocating in that moment, and I knew I had to go back. I stepped outside the diner, the cool night air biting at my skin. The usual sounds of the forest were now replaced by an eerie silence. My heartbeat echoed loudly in my ears as I took a few cautious steps away from the warm glow of the diner's neon sign. I needed to know the truth, even if it scared me. The path back to the clearing felt different. Not just darker, but charged with an energy that prickled my skin. I could have turned back, but the image of the cloaked figure haunted me. What did it want? Why did it look like her? I kept the locket in my pocket, feeling its weight as a reminder of the stakes involved. As I walked, my footfalls muffled by the damp forest floor, I felt a shift in the air. The wind gathered, swirling around me like an invisible current. It pulled me forward, urging me to continue. I focused on the faint glow of moonlight guiding my way, and soon enough I stood before the twisted oak again. It loomed larger than before, as though it had grown in the time I had been away. The circle of stones felt more menacing, their engravings now gleaming under the moon. I approached cautiously, but the sense of being watched was palpable. I scanned the trees, half expecting to see the figure again. That's when I felt it, a cold breath on the nape of my neck. I turned quickly, but there was nothing there, just shadows stretching into the distance. I took a deep breath and forced myself to remain calm. Whatever this was, it would reveal itself when it was ready. Suddenly, a rustle came from the bushes to my right. I froze. My mind raced with all that might be lurking in the dark. A deer? A bear? My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. The rustling grew louder, closer. I took a cautious step backward, and then I saw it. A pair of eyes reflected the moonlight, piercing and unyielding. They were nearly human, but too deep, too knowing. I squinted to get a better look, and the creature emerged slowly from the thicket. It wasn't the figure from before, but something otherworldly. The creature had an elongated face, wide eyes, almost too large for its head. Instead of fear, an odd sense of familiarity settled over me. I realized it was the same presence that had been guiding me, albeit in a different form. "Help me," it rasped, its voice echoing the same plea that had led me here. I took another step forward, curiosity overcoming my fear. "Who are you?" I asked, the words spilling from my lips before I could contain them. "What do you want?" The creature tilted its head, and in that moment I saw a flash of the woman's face. It was fleeting, gone before I could grab hold of it. Then everything shifted. The ground trembled beneath my feet. I stumbled back, losing my balance, and suddenly the creature lunged forward. Before everything went black, I understood I was at the heart of a mystery far greater than myself. An overwhelming force pulled me into darkness, leaving me with more questions than answers. As I slipped away from the forest for the second time that night, I woke with a start, gasping for air as I pushed against the damp earth underneath me. Panic set in as I blinked against the heavy darkness surrounding me. My heart raced. Where was I? Slowly, my senses began to recalibrate. I recognized the familiar earthy smell of the forest, the soft crunch of leaves beneath me. As I sat up, I was painfully aware of my pounding head. It felt like a fog was rolling through my mind. I rubbed my temples, trying to shake off the feeling of disorientation. The memory of the creature loomed in my thoughts, its eyes seared into my mind's eye. I could practically hear its raspy voice echoing, "Help me." I turned my head, scanning the area. The twisted oak stood silent, its gnarled branches like fingers reaching for the sky. The moonlight spilled through the trees, illuminating patches of the ground around me. I was alone, but the weight of something unseen lingered in the air. Pushing myself to my feet, I took a moment to regain my balance. I needed to get back to the diner. I had to talk to someone, anyone, who could help me understand what had just happened. My legs felt shaky as I stepped over the stones and headed down the path I came from, though I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The forest had a heavy silence, but I couldn't ignore the rustling that came from the underbrush. Was it the creature again? I hesitated before continuing, my hand instinctively reaching for the locket in my pocket. It provided a strange sense of comfort as I moved cautiously through the darkness. As I walked, I thought about the woman's face I had seen in the moment of the creature's transformation. Who was she? Was she tied to the strange energy in this forest? A chill ran down my spine. Just then, I noticed a light flickering between the trees ahead. Cautiously, I headed toward it, trying to steady my breathing. The light grew brighter, revealing what looked like a small campsite. A fire crackled quietly, the flames casting flickering shadows on the tents nearby. I picked up my pace, desperate for company, and emerged into the clearing. But as I approached, I froze. The two figures sitting near the fire were not just campers. They wore dark cloaks that resembled the one I'd seen before. My heart sank as they turned their heads in unison, their eyes burning with an intensity that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling. One of them rose slowly. "You're not supposed to be here," the figure said, its voice low and steady. "You must leave." My instincts screamed at me to turn back, to run, but I couldn't move. This wasn't just a brush with the unknown anymore. I was being pulled into something much darker. Then the figure pointed beyond me into the trees. "It's coming." Before I could ask what it meant, I heard the rustle again, louder this time. Panic seized me. I turned, my heart racing. If it was the creature, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face it again. But looking back at the cloaked figures felt just as dangerous. In that moment I realized I was trapped between the unknown threats. The night was far from over. I stood frozen, caught between the cloaked figures and the dark woods behind me. My mind raced. Should I trust the warning? I could run, or confront the danger, but my legs felt like lead, weighing me down. The rustling grew closer, and I swallowed hard. Trembling, I searched for an escape. The cloaked figures remained silent, their eyes unblinking as they watched. It was then that I realized they knew something I didn't. They were waiting. The rustling stopped abruptly, replaced by heavy footsteps. My breath caught. Something big was out there. I glanced back at the fire, its warm glow offering no comfort. I could feel the shadows creeping closer, threatening to snuff out the light. "Get behind us," one of the figures commanded, stepping forward as if to shield me from whatever approached. My instincts screamed against the command, urging me to run, but a deep-seated curiosity held me still. Who were these people? What were they protecting me from? Suddenly, a shape moved into the clearing. It was nothing like what I expected. Instead of the creature I'd seen earlier, a large wolf emerged, its eyes glinting in the firelight. But this was no ordinary wolf. It was too big, too wild, its fur matted and patchy, giving it an unnerving air. The cloaked figures seemed unfazed. They stood their ground, arms crossed as if daring the beast to come closer. "It's a guardian," one whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "but its time is running out." The wolf growled, baring its teeth, but didn't advance. I could feel the energy shift. It was as if the very air thickened with tension. "What are you talking about?" I blurted out, the panic cutting through my dread. "Listen," the other figure said softly, their voice like gravel. "It's searching for someone it thinks is lost. It can sense your connection." Before I could respond, the wolf's gaze locked onto me. In that moment, it felt like I was the only one in the clearing, the only thing in its world. The growl rumbled again, deeper this time, like the growl of the earth itself. I took a step back, my throat tightening. Then everything went still. The wolf lowered its head, regarding me with an intensity that was almost human. I didn't understand. What connection could I possibly have with a creature like this? In a flash, it lunged. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I turned, instinctively running deeper into the forest, my heart pounding. I could hear the call of the wolf, but I didn't dare look back. Branches whipped at my skin as I bolted through the underbrush, panic guiding my every step. The sounds around me twisted and turned, blending into an unsettling chorus of rustles, growls, and whispers. Just when I thought I was gaining distance, a blinding flash of light erupted in front of me, illuminating the path I was rushing toward. I stopped dead in my tracks. Standing there was a woman dressed in a flowing gown, her hair wild and untamed, eyes burning with a knowing light. "Help me," she whispered, a haunting echo of the creature's voice that lingered in my mind. That's when I realized I had stumbled into the heart of something far more dangerous and complex than I could have ever imagined. I could barely make sense of the scene before me. The woman stood still, her gown blowing slightly as if caught in a gentle breeze that didn't exist. I felt a strange pull toward her, like gravity holding me in place, but my instincts screamed to flee. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out. My voice felt small in the vastness of the forest. She smiled, a mix of comfort and mystery, but didn't answer. The silence only heightened the sense of urgency. That's when I noticed the wolf's silhouette emerging behind me, a dark shadow against the glow of the stranger. Its growl rumbled like thunder, and my heart raced. It was closer than I thought. I turned my head just enough to see its piercing eyes watching me. "Stay calm," the woman said calmly, her voice carrying an authority I didn't question. "He won't harm you, he needs your help." Her eyes held a light that almost felt alive. I wanted to believe her. Before I could respond, the wolf lunged forward. Panic surged through me as I twisted to run, but the woman's voice stopped me cold. "The path will find you, trust it." As if compelled by her words, I hesitated. My fear faded slightly, replaced by an electric curiosity. Could this be the connection the cloaked figures spoke of? I turned back to the woman, searching for answers. "You're not just lost, are you?" she continued, stepping closer. "You have a purpose here, more than you know." A low howl echoed through the trees, resonating deep within me. The wolf still stood, but its aggressiveness had tempered. Instead, it watched me carefully, as if assessing my reaction to her words. "See?" she urged. "He knows something about you. You must follow him." The command left me breathless. I couldn't shake the fear, but curiosity gripped me harder. Follow him where? Into the truth you've been avoiding. Embrace it. At that moment, a chill swept through the air, and the shadows in the woods flickered. Something dark shifted in the depths of the trees. My mind raced. I wanted to question her, demand clarity, but I could sense the urgency. The wolf was focused on me. "Don't you feel it?" she asked, her eyes locking onto mine. "The land is alive. The answers you seek are just ahead." I felt a flicker of warmth spread through my chest like a small flame. Maybe this was my chance to discover who I truly was. Before I could think about it too much, I stepped hesitantly toward the wolf. It nodded slightly, inviting me to move forward. But just as I took my first deliberate step, the ground shook beneath me. I looked back to the woman, her gaze fixed on the trees as they trembled. "You must go." That was all it took. I sprinted toward the wolf, the uncertain sounds behind me growing louder. It darted deeper into the forest, and I followed, hope battling fear. Then I heard the howl again, sharper this time, blending with a multitude of whispers, echoing warnings I couldn't quite grasp. I felt a rush of adrenaline push me forward. But something was wrong. The atmosphere shifted, thickening as we plunged into shadows. I glanced back. The woman was gone, vanished like mist. I could feel it. Something sinister was watching us. Then I saw it. A dark shape looming, a shift in the air that made my skin crawl. Whatever lay ahead, it felt like the moment was building to a climax I couldn't escape. The wolf stopped suddenly, and I had to keep from crashing into its powerful frame. We stood at the edge of a clearing, and the faint sound of laughter drifted through the trees. The air felt charged, and a new mix of anxiety and intrigue flooded me. What had I stepped into? I stepped cautiously into the clearing, my breath hitching as the laughter grew louder. It sounded different, almost otherworldly. I glanced at the wolf beside me, its ears perked up, alert. Something was not right. The trees loomed around us, casting long shadows that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening was more twisted than I first believed. I shifted my weight, ready to retreat if needed, when something colorful caught my eye. In the center of the clearing was a strange gathering. Figures in vibrant, mismatched clothes danced around a large fire. They moved in sync, their expressions a blend of joy and ferocity. I squinted, trying to make out their features, but all I could see were masks, brightly painted and fixed in eerie grins. A wave of alarm washed over me. This was not joy. It was a celebration of something darker. And then I realized the truth. They were not just celebrating. They were waiting. For who or what, I wasn't sure, but fear clawed at my insides. The wolf shifted closer, its body tense. I felt the connection between us strengthen. It was as if it knew the danger that lay just beyond the firelight. I glanced around frantically, seeking another way out. But the ring of trees tightened, imprisoning me within this strange ritual. That's when one of the masked figures suddenly turned, its eyes fixated on me. Laughter died down, replaced by a thick silence. The other figures paused mid-dance, their gazes locking onto my own. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if I were bare before their scrutiny. "Join us!" a voice boomed from the crowd, low and melodic. I couldn't tell where it came from, but it sent shivers down my spine. "You must embrace what you fear." I shook my head instinctively, backing away slightly. My heart raced. This was not what I wanted. I wanted answers, not to be drawn into whatever twisted ritual they were offering. "Why are you here?" another voice chimed, this one sharper, commanding. "You seek truth, do you not? We can show you." Oh. The wolf beside me growled low. A warning rolled in with the sound. I wanted to turn and run, but something kept me rooted in place. Perhaps it was the pull of the woman's words, the purpose she claimed I had here, or simply a deep-seated need to learn why I was caught up in this absurdity. But before I could fully process my thoughts, the air thickened again. A low rumble echoed in the distance, reverberating throughout the clearing. The fire flickered wildly, casting monstrous shadows that warped the figures around it. Then everything went dark, as if the world had been pulled away from under me. Someone gasped nearby, and then I heard a familiar howl that shattered the silence, sending fear coursing through my veins. The wolf surged forward, breaking through the shadows and rejoining the dance of the figures. I could not believe my eyes. "What are you doing?" I shouted, frantically trying to understand. But my voice was swallowed by the darkness. "Help him," I heard someone whisper, barely discernible under the chaos. All at once, the fire flared back to life, illuminating the clearing once more, revealing the faces of the masked figures. Their expressions morphed, flickering like the flames itself. Every face turned menacing, yet desperate, as they pointed toward the forest beyond. Suddenly, I felt the pull of the wolf, the connection deepening. It wasn't just about following. I was being drawn into a confrontation that felt inevitable. "Follow him," the voices echoed, and I realized there was no choice. With resolve, I stepped longer into the clearing, not yet aware of what waited for me in the unknown, but knowing I had to confront it, whatever it may be. The shadows loomed over me as I stepped toward the fire, my heart racing in tandem with the unsettling rhythm of the masked figures. The wolf at my side projected an aura of strength, and I leaned on its presence as I took a deep breath. Whatever mysteries the woods held, I was ready to confront them. Around me, the figures watched intently, their masked faces a stark contrast to the warmth of the fire. "Help him!" The echoing whispers returned, but the meaning was lost in the darkness. Between the urgency of their call and the looming threat of whatever was waiting beyond our circle, I felt the weight of the moment press against my chest. The wolf nudged me forward, and fear gripped my mind. "What do you mean?" I shouted, desperation woven into my voice. "Who do I need to help?" The murmurs escalated, swirling around me like a tempest. "Embrace what you fear," one figure repeated, tilting its head in a way that sent a shiver down my spine. The fire flickered again, and my body trembled with the combined energy of the flames and the shadows surrounding me. Before I could process my thoughts, the wolf surged ahead, breaking the barrier of the figures. Without thinking, I followed, driven by instinct and a sense of purpose I didn't yet understand. These woods were alive, each rustle and whisper beckoning me closer to the truth. As I moved toward the clearing's edge, the masked figures began to chant softly. They accompanied the rhythm of the forest, creating a haunting melody that seeped into my bones. I was almost there, almost ready to uncover what had drawn me into this labyrinth of shadows and phantoms. Suddenly, an ear-splitting howl pierced the night. It was the wolf's cry, but tinged with a pain that reverberated deep within me. I stumbled, regaining my footing in the kaleidoscope of light and darkness. Just as I regained my balance, I was met with a nightmarish vision. A dark figure emerged from the trees, silhouetted against the glowing embers of the fire. The creature filled the clearing with an ancient, haunting energy. Its elongated frame loomed, similar to the wolf but more unrestrained, more primal. My instincts screamed that this entity was the embodiment of fear that the masked figures had spoken of. "Help me!" It echoed, but the voice twisted between desperation and malice. My heart raced as I perceived a semblance of the woman's spirit within its essence, flickering between the lines of past and present. If this creature was linked to her, then I knew that, somehow, it was connected to the locket still clasped in my hand. "Stay back!" I shouted, struggling against the pounding fury in my chest. My hands tightened around the locket, as I realized it might hold the key to whatever had awakened this horror. The wolf moved closer, standing firm beside me. "Help him," my mind echoed. But clarity was elusive. Was I meant to confront this dark presence or help it? I found myself caught between the past's fury and the present's plea. With an instinct driven by a surge of newfound courage, I took a step toward the creature. the locket glowing faintly with each beat of my heart. "If you want help," I said, my voice firm, "you need to show me who you truly are." The creature paused, and in the stillness that followed, the otherworldly energy wrapped around us, drawing every being into its blinding light. The air crackled with anticipation. Just as the night reached its peak of tension, the figure began to shift and morph, the edges softening as if it were peeling away its layers of darkness. And then, amid that potent light, the glow dissolved, revealing the woman, the one from the locket, now standing in front of me, eyes shimmering with unquenchable sorrow. "Help me," she whispered again, but this time it wasn't a somber wail echoing from the depths of despair. It was laced with hope, a dawning light within the shadows. The weight of the revelation surged through me, a realization of deep-rooted pain interwoven with the essence of time. The wolf looked between us, its gaze filled with understanding, as if joining in a secret only the three of us knew. Suddenly the ground trembled, and the forest seemed poised to break apart. It was as if time had caught up to us, demanding the moment's reckoning be faced. I felt the urgency swell, knowing that the path I took now mattered more than it ever did. "If you are to be freed, we must confront this together," I iterated, my voice a steady pulse amidst the chaos that surrounded us. "Tell me what must be done." "Embrace my past," she pleaded, her voice growing more resolute. "Then I can finally be free." And so, as the echoes of fear merged into the chorus of the forest, I drew strength from the connection we shared. The masked figures resumed their chant, raising their hands toward the skies above, guiding us. In that charged moment, I let the tendrils of the past envelop us. The shadows swirled until they began to lose their grasp. I embraced the memory of the woman, the intertwining of her pain, and the wolf's silent resolve. Together, we faced the darkness head-on. With an otherworldly howl, the clearing vibrated, and I watched as the past unfurled before our eyes, scenes of heartache and warmth laced through this ethereal space. The darkness began to lift, the grip of despair loosening as the masked figures transformed. They danced not of fear anymore, but unity and purpose, circling around us, their laughter now ringing with piercing joy as they celebrated the return of what had been lost. What was once burdened became light, and in that transitory state, I saw glimpses of truths unimagined, fragments left unanswered still lying scattered like fallen leaves. Some questions remained, swirling in the undertones of what we had just uncovered. Were these woods haunted by the echoes of time? Was it fate or mere coincidence that intertwined us? And slowly, one by one, the figures stepped back toward the trees, their formations dissolving as the dark mystery opened like a book worn by choice and unwillingness. As dawn crept over the horizon, the woman's figure began to shimmer, her features softening once more. With a gentle smile, she glanced back at me. "Thank you for listening," she said with an echo of relief in her voice. As she faded into the light, I held tightly to the locket. The wolf lingered beside me, still watchful and steadfast. I had crossed into the heart of a world where fear met the past, but the greater truth lay beyond the moments shared. The light of dawn began to break free from the shackles of night, yet as the forest paused, I couldn't help but wonder if I had truly set her free, or if the lingering connection meant I would always carry the echoes of these shadows within me. Though I felt the forest change at that moment, I knew the mysterious dance between the light and the dark would never completely fade. With a final glance at the now quiet woods, I turned to leave, carrying with me both the locket and a surreal weight of questions unanswered, bound forever to the secrets of those Appalachian nights.